We are now flying over some of the wilderness areas of northwestern United States and Canada. Here there are thousands of square miles of uninhabited wilderness that is still unexplored. It is in these vast, unexplored wilderness areas of North America that a 9-foot-tall, human-like creature is reported to live. This is the home of the Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, as the Indians call him.
I'm Jay Smith, and it's my job to give you a first-hand report on Bigfoot. I've been here in this camp for several days. We're told it's Bigfoot country. From this camp, a vast wilderness area is now being searched for the Bigfoot. This is Ron Olson. Ron's from Springfield, Oregon, and he heads up expeditions looking for the Bigfoot. Ron, tell me, just what is a Bigfoot?
Excuse me a minute. Craig, hold that thing up a minute. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, as he's called in Canada, is a giant, hair-covered, human-like creature that's been reported more and more throughout the mountains of the northwestern United States and Canada.
How big do they run?
Many sightings has revealed this creature to be between 7 to 9 feet tall and 600 to 900 pounds.
Well, now, let's hear the words of some people who've had some first-hand experiences with Bigfoot.
One of the first detailed drawings of a Sasquatch was made by Mrs. Myrtle Walton of British Columbia. Her father, William Rowe, had the unique experience of being able to watch a Sasquatch at close range. Mrs. Walton now tells us how it came about.
My dad come and asked me to draw a picture of this animal or human for him. He called it a Sasquatch. So he could send it to this John Green, and I drawed the picture for him, and just exactly the way he told me he wanted it drawn. There was a few things he changed on it, like he made the arms a lot heavier, and the head was different, and the breast was different, and the back part was different. So between the two of us, we patched it all up, and we sent it to John Green.
After Mrs. Walton made the sketch for her father, she and her husband had a personal experience with a Bigfoot. This is what they report.
Well, I think my wife and I have heard the Sasquatch. There's a swamp fairly close to the house here where we can walk out of an evening, and quite often we go down to watch moose. And one night we were down there, and there wasn't any moose around, which was strange because in the summer every night there's moose in the swamp. And we're just before dusk when across the swamp we heard this screaming cry.
There were 3 cries, screams, or horrible screams, or whatever they was. One after the other. There was silence between, and everything was just dead quiet afterwards. Just made the hair crawl on the back of your neck.
We didn't see anything, but I've heard every animal that lives in the locality at different times, and it wasn't any of those. And if I was asked to describe the sound, I'd say it was a kind of a screaming cry, and it seemed to have anguish in it. Anguish was the thing that stuck with me.
Here is an approximation to the sound that they reported hearing that evening. some of the investigators began to call on the scientific community for facts which might put the puzzle together and prove or disprove the reports. Here is Dr. Charles Guiguet, curator of mammals at the Provincial Museum in Victoria, British Columbia, who reflects the dilemma in which he and his companions found themselves.
In my opinion, the Sasquatch, the Yeti, the abominable snowman, the Winnebago, the Cadabrosaurus, Loch Ness Monster, Ogopogo, all of these animals belong in the realm of folklore and mythology. And my reason for saying this is simply that there is no concrete proof, evidence, that any of these creatures ever existed on the face of this planet. No one has ever produced a specimen, complete or incomplete, to prove that any of these animals have ever lived.
The scientists were asking for physical evidence to support the stories of the reported creature. In 1958, Gerald Crew was building a new road in a wilderness area in Northern California. For several mornings in a row, he noted there were huge, human-like footprints around his bulldozer. He obtained some plaster of Paris and made casts of them. Here now was physical evidence of something that made tracks. Some scientists say they are made by a prankster. Here is another investigator, René Dahinden.
No scientist ever came out in the bush to look at the footprints which we found. No scientists ever studied these tracks. They're sitting there saying they're faked without ever having seen footprints in the area where we found them. No technical evaluation was ever made. In my opinion, after having seen 3,000 footprints myself of 6 different sizes, I came to the conclusion this tracks to be made by a living foot, a creature with a foot like this, a Sasquatch, rather than a man with artificial feet.
The task of the investigator has not been an easy one. On one hand, he is greeted by individuals who just saw Bigfoot and believes it. On the other, he is met with cries of derision and fakery. There is beginning to be a new line of thinking from the scientific community on this subject. Here is Dr. Grover Krantz, physical anthropologist at Washington State University, which explains his view.
As a physical anthropologist, I've decided that these creatures do, in all likelihood, exist. The evidence of the footprints is what I find the most convincing. This is an example of one footprint. This is a plaster cast, which shows a crippled individual. The foot was twisted, and 2 bulges appear, calloused structures on the outside edge of the foot, and correspond to gaps in the bones, which I've reconstructed here. If this was faked, the person doing it had to be an absolute expert in human anatomy.
Perhaps the most startling and far-reaching event in the recent history of Bigfoot hunting happened to a long-time investigator by the name of Roger Patterson. In October of 1967, he and a friend were in the Bluff Creek area of Northern California to investigate a reported sighting of 2 creatures. Suddenly, his horse shied as a large creature stood erect from behind a log where it had been drinking from the creek. Patterson grabbed a 16-millimeter camera from the saddlebag and jumped from the back of the rearing horse to take the following pictures. Let's hear in Patterson's words exactly what happened that day.
As it walked across the sandbar, I was able to get some fairly good footage of it. It turned a couple of times and looked at us, and as it turned, it seemed to give me the impression that it didn't want anything to do with it. It didn't run, it didn't act scared, but yet it acted leery of us.
Patterson thought that he had proved once and for all that the creatures existed, but he found that even the film was in question. As a result, the footage was submitted to experts in various fields. Among them was Janis Prohaska. Active in the motion picture industry since 1939 as an impersonator of animals of the ape family, Mr. Prohaska was convinced that Roger Patterson had filmed a living, wild creature.
The movement is the only thing what throwed me a little bit, because he moved a little bit more like a man than an animal. Because you could see all the muscles on the body and the whole movement. It didn't move like a costume at all. And the size of it was enormous big size, so I don't know if they find a big man like that.
Mr. Prohashka, you mentioned that the creature did not move as if it were a costume. Do you think it would be possible to create such a costume?
That would be a difficult... I don't think so. Because that costume, if it would be a costume, that would have taken such a long time to put the hair. You should put the hair by glue them on. It would take about 10 hours, the whole makeup job. And it looked to me very, very real. I'm doing this since 1939, and if that was a costume, that was the best I have ever seen.
What drives men like these to leave their homes and live weeks at a time in a camp to search for a creature that most people don't believe exists? There is an inner drive in all men that flares only a few times in their lives. This kind of drive in men discovered America, explored the North Pole, and finally sent man to the moon.
For 5 years, you watched the best sci-fi series of the 90s. Now, it all comes down to one final episode. Be there when Sheridan faces his greatest adventure yet, and brace yourself for the ultimate fate of Babylon 5.
Computer, set course.
It's 1 hour you'll never forget. Babylon 5, the final episode. Wednesday, November 25th at 10, only on TNT.
As life gets more complicated, Sprint is creating a world where things are simple. A world created around the way you live. Call 1-800-667-4727 now and join a world where your weekends are your own, without restrictions. Introducing Sprint Unlimited. You get unlimited calls to anyone, anywhere, every Saturday and Sunday for just $25 a month. And your weekday calls are just $0.10 a minute, anytime, anywhere. Weekends were made for catching up with your life. So Sprint is giving you unlimited calls every weekend of every month. And if you call now, you'll get 2 extra days of unlimited calls for the holidays. Join a world where weekends never end, and every weekday call is just $0.10 a minute. It's a world created around you. Why live in a world that isn't? Call 1-800-667-4727 now. Switch to Sprint Unlimited and get 2 extra days at the holidays. Sprint ahead.
Some fans watch football, but you see a different game with an insider's perspective when you read the new sporting news. Some fans watch basketball, but you'll see a different game and know who to watch when you read the sporting news. Some fans watch hockey, but you'll see a different game and know why that team is hot when you read the sporting news. And now you can read the sporting news free when you call now to claim your no-cost 4-issue sporting news mini subscription. Plus, reserve these great sports binoculars free. The Sporting News is now a full-color magazine, packed with the best, most in-depth sports coverage you'll find anywhere. You get all the teams, in season or out. Some fans watch baseball, but you'll see a different game and know what the manager's thinking when you read the Sporting News. Call now for your no-cost 4-issue Sporting News mini subscription. If you like it, get 24 more issues, 28 in all, for 4 easy payments of just $5.99. Plus, get these great sports binoculars free with your paid subscription. Call now and see a different game.
This November, there's a change in the air. The time has come to gather round and celebrate with TNT. See the best and the brightest play to win. And heroes reach for new heights.
We're fighting for the fate of the world. Give me everything you've got.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, geez.
Feast your eyes. All this month on TNT.